I'm starting to run out of sponsors for this series of videos, but here we go again. Ladies and gentlemen, Behind the Line proudly presents to you another exciting edition of the Woke Turning On the Woke. This episode is brought to you by Toxic Masculinity Remover. Are you having trouble with unwanted hair growth on your face? Is that pesky beard preventing you from becoming the woman you aspire to be? That's okay, because Toxic Masculinity Remover will boost your feminine traits in 90 days. Toxic Masculinity Remover is a chemical compound designed to eliminate your manhood. Bill becomes Jill. Brendan becomes Brenda. Nate becomes Kate. Join these identifiers by removing your toxic masculinity today. Give us a call at 888-IHATEMN. Oh, another parishioner of Woke United Methodist has learned the hard way that there is no loyalty in the woke movement. 3 or 4 years ago, Gregg Doyel, no relation to Bob, he was a loyal comrade. He was fighting the good fight. He was preaching the good word. He was committed to eliminating the harmful, dangerous Covey from the National Football League. When the Indy Star sent Craig to cover NFL games, he never left home without his mask. He was so dedicated to the cause, he even decorated his mask with pieces of flair, just like in the movie Office Space. Craig, he was not like Jennifer Aniston, who only wore the minimum requirement when it came to pieces of flair. The Gregor, he was like that geek in Office Space who cleared out the flair shelf and put that garbage all over his scrawny body. But like all other parishioners who have sinned, like all other parishioners who have violated the woke commandments, Gregg Doyel found out the hard way there is no loyalty in the woke movement. When you live a life of sin, you must be punished. And the Gregor, he is being punished in embarrassing fashion. Now, I'm sure some of you guys are wondering, KC, who in the hell is Gregg Doyel? Allow me to refresh your memory. A couple of weeks ago, Caitlin Clark was giving her introductory press conference as the newest member of the Indiana Felines. Now, these introductory press conferences, they are special events in the WNBA dump. In real sports, there are usually photo ops where players have their pictures taken by the media holding up their new team jersey. In the WNBA, the league gives the media this opportunity to photograph rookie dump divers as they get fitted for their steel-toed boots and hard hats. They also have their pictures taken in their high-vis vest. But with Caitlin Clark being the #1 overall pick, she doesn't need the high-vis vest since she will be riding shotgun in the garbage truck. A couple of weeks ago, Caitlin Clark, she is speaking to the Indianapolis media for the very first time. As usual, Caitlin Clark handled herself like a true professional. Unfortunately, the same can't be said for Gregg Doyel, a veteran sports reporter for the Indy Star. Craig opens the press conference by giving Caitlin Clark the heart emoji. All of my men out there, let me give you a little piece of advice. Never, ever, ever put your hands in the shape of a heart in public and signal to someone that you love them. It's just weird. But KC, Travis Kelce does this all the time to celebrate touchdowns. Yeah, and when he gets married, he'll be taking the last name of Taylor Swiffer. He's going from Travis Kelce to Travis Pfizer to Travis Swiffer. He's also a guy in his mid-30s who is still funneling beers at college frat parties. When I was in college and the 30-year-old dudes were still hanging around, we called them that guy. That guy who's too damn old to be here. So if Travis Kelce is doing something, I wouldn't necessarily emulate it. But anyway, after Gregg Doyel gave his heart signal to Caitlin Clark, the atmosphere of the press conference, it went from bad to worse. Watch for yourself.
Gregg Doyel, Indy Star. Real quick, let me do this.
You like that?
I like that you're here. I like that you're here.
I do that at my family after every game, so.
Okay, well, let's
cool.
Start doing it to me and we'll get along just fine.
You just were given the keys to that. What are you going to do with it?
Pretty weird, right? I mean, this dude is old enough to be Caitlin Clark's father, and he is flirting with her like a love interest. Due to the subsequent outrage caused from this exchange, Gregg Doyel, he dedicated an entire column in the Indy Star to apologizing to Caitlin Clark. Please forgive me, I know not what I do. Please forgive me, I'm sorry, Katie Rue. He even sent her a public apology on Twitter. I didn't mean for my unique oafish personality to come across that way. Oafish? What the fuck is an oafish? Is that some mythical sea creature that I don't know about? When I saw this exchange between Gregg Doyel and Caitlin Clark, I didn't think he looked like an oafish. I thought he looked like a sea donkey. But during his apology tour, Gregg Doyel, he also claimed to be a part of the problem. Well, KC, what problem? Yeah, I had the same question. What problem are we talking about, Greggy? Unfortunately, we will never know because the distant relative of Bob Dole did not specify. Doesn't look like we will get clarification anytime soon because Gregg Doyel hasn't published an article since April 29th. After an extensive investigation, the Indy Star, they decided to suspend Gregg Doyel for 2 weeks. Now let me translate that for you. Anytime a mainstream media outlet says after extensive investigation, what they really mean is we analyzed the level of fake outrage and determined the punishment based off of that. Basically, Gregg Doyel got put in timeout. No woke hugs, no springtime barbecues where he can enjoy the grilled wiener. For 2 weeks, Gregg Doyel had to read the woke Bible and think about the sins that he committed. But that was not the only punishment for Gregg Doyel. You think after committing a sin of this magnitude, a simple 2-week suspension would suffice? The Indy Star, they also banned Gregg Doyel from attending games of the Indiana Felines. That sounds more like a punishment for the WNBA than it does for Gregg Doyel. For years, the Felines have been one of the worst drawing teams in the league. Now, sure, that is going to change this season with Caitlin Clark, hopefully long term, but historically, hasn't been a good business strategy in the WNBA to ban media reporters from attending games. Most of the time, the only people in the seats are the media. Gregg Doyel is forbidden from speaking to Caitlin Clark. It's almost like a restraining order. The Indy Star told Gregg Doyel, you are required to maintain a distance of 500 feet between yourself and Caitlin Clark. Part of me understands why the Indy Star did this. Right now, Caitlin Clark is the biggest star in Indianapolis. Hell, right now, Caitlin Clark is the biggest star in basketball, one of the biggest stars in the country. With the Indy Star being the local media outlet, you want to maintain your access to Caitlin Clark. Sending Captain Doofus to games and press conferences, probably a bad idea. So, part of me understands the decision. The other part of me thinks that it's an overreach. It's an overreaction. I am no defender of Gregg Doyel, but this just seems like a bit much. Was his exchange with Caitlin Clark creepy? Obviously. Was it weird? Was it unprofessional? Sure, but come on! I don't think Gregg Doyel is dangerous. He doesn't need a fake restraining order. The guy's just weird. He needs to learn how to talk to women. I thought deacons at Woke United Methodist were proponents of sensitivity training. What the hell happened to that? Get Craig on a dating app and have him learn how to talk to women. It can't be Grindr, though, the preferred dating app for patrons of Club Shay Shay. Get Craig a profile on Tinder or Bumble. Make sure he pays the monthly fee so he is guaranteed to get a few bots to match with him. Otherwise, his match list will be completely empty. Get him talking to a few bots on Bumble and have Greggy learn how to talk to women. Here's the thing. If this same exchange happened between a female reporter and a male athlete, there would not be a single word said about it. Logically speaking, I know it's a different situation. It's just the difference between men and women. But I thought that we were living in the era of equality. What happened to equality? While researching this story this afternoon, I was given further proof of just how irrelevant the WNBA is. The Washington Post, they published an article by Ben Strauss, whoever the hell that is, and they were talking about the Indy Star banning Gregg Doyel. Tagline of the article reads, Gregg Doyel, longtime voice of the newspaper, will not be allowed to cover the Indianapolis Fever. What the hell's the Indianapolis Fever? First of all, the mascot for the dump in Indiana is the felines, not the fever. The fever's what you catch after a long weekend with Aunt Fauci. Second, the WNBA team, it's called the Indiana Fever. You know, kind of like the Indiana Pacers. There's an Indianapolis Colts. There's not an Indianapolis Pacers or Indianapolis Fever. This article went through an editor, meaning not only did the writer at the Washington Post not know the name of the WNBA team, the editors, they didn't know it either. I cannot think of another instance of this happening to another league, where a mainstream media outlet doesn't even know the correct name of your team. That is how irrelevant the WNBA has been for decades. Can you imagine the Washington Post saying Drew Brees from the Louisiana Saints or Zion Williamson from the Louisiana Pelicans? I know it's a simple mistake, but this only happens to the WNBA. The same media that claims to be fighting for the league, it's the same media who pays zero attention to it. Anyway, I think banning Gregg Doyel, I just think it's an overreach. Now, maybe Caitlin Clark requested this. Maybe she wasn't comfortable interacting with him going forward. I don't know. You tell me. Do you think this was an overreach? Was banning Gregg Doyel from covering the Indiana Fever a bit too much? Or do you think it was the right call? Let me know. Sound off in the comments below. Like, subscribe, share the video. Appreciate your support. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.